Sewing friends, welcome to my sewing room. Today I'm going to show you how to get started with this Janome sewing machine. Just start by saying that I don't have any connection with Janome at all. This machine has been lent to me by a friend, and I've done a couple of other sewing machine tutorials and I've been pleasantly surprised at the positive feedback I've had from people. People do seem to have found it very useful. So I'm just going to go through the basics today, how to set it up, how to get the bobbin loaded up, how to thread the machine, how to make stitch selections. I'm going to assume that you have worked out how to plug it in. You put the foot on the floor, plug it into the mains power, and the sockets are on the side. Now, the first thing to say about any sewing machine that you've acquired second hand, I'm assuming that you might have got it in a car boot sale, a thrift shop, you might have inherited it, you might have been given it as a present years ago and only just got around to getting it out of the box. So the first thing that you must do is satisfy yourself that the machine is safe to use. You're going to be plugging it into the mains electricity. There could be a loose wire and you do need to have it checked. Having said that, once you're satisfied that it's safe to use, you will hopefully get many years of use out of your sewing machine. So if it doesn't come with an instruction book, this is the one that my friend got with her machine. If yours has been lost or you get the machine and doesn't have one, I've just checked and you can actually download this machine from the Janome website. So you can just either look at it on a computer or download it and print it out so that you've got it to refer to. So what I'm going through today is just the basics and it's not intended as a substitute for actually reading the manual. So the first thing I'm going to cover is I'm going to assume that you've not used a sewing machine before. So I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail, and I've also put timestamps in the description so you can jump ahead if you want to. But I'm assuming you've not used a sewing machine before, or you probably wouldn't be looking at this video. So if you're doing some hand sewing and you've got a sewing needle like this and a thread and a piece of fabric, you would just get your thread and you would put it down through the fabric like this. You come back up and there you go, you've made your stitch, and carry on like that. You know, whether you're hemming or sewing two pieces of fabric together, that's how you do it. You've got using one hand, holding the fabric with the other, and you're going like this. Sewing machines don't do that. Sewing machines work differently. They combine a top thread with a bottom thread to mimic how you would hand sew, but they use two threads to do it. So you've got the thread that you've bought in the shop, which is on a reel here, and for this machine, and in fact every sewing machine, you've got to start by getting some of that thread onto a bobbin. Now your machine might not come with any bobbins, so the ones for Janome's look like this. For this machine, look like this. I'd suggest if it's only come with one in it, buy some as well, because you'll want to change thread and you won't want to keep redoing the bobbin. So you'll want different ones loaded up with different threads. So bobbins come in a box like this, and this is a bit of a generic one, but if in doubt, get Janome ones, or check when you're buying them that they do go with this machine. They're all different. Some of them look the same and they're not the same. Like there's other ones like this that are like this, but they're not as deep as these. If you get the wrong one, you'll never be able to thread the machine. You've got to have the right one. So make sure it's for a Janome machine and it'll work for this model. I'm assuming also that you've already got a needle in your machine, and if you haven't, I'll cover how to replace the needle. But I use these Schmetz needles. I've always used them. I've got a link in the description if you want to get some. These are 80-12, so 80 and 12 refers to it's not two different dimensions of the needle. It's not length and width. The 80 and the 12 both relate to one dimension of the needle. So the next size up is 90-14. I tend to buy 90-14 universal Schmetz needles, and I find they work perfectly for most things. Right, so let's get on with it. So I'll just quickly go through the basics of where the different switches and dials are. It can seem a bit daunting, but it's not really. So this is the stitch selection knob, and you need to make sure that the needle's in the up position when you turn this round, so that you don't, you can sometimes break the needle if you do that, if you change it while that's down. So you'll see these two different stitch options here. The ones on the left are for straight fabric like this, are for woven fabric like this. So woven fabric is fabric that doesn't stretch. So like this piece of cotton, doesn't stretch. And these stitches are on the left for that kind of fabric. And the ones on the right are for if you want to do a stretch stitch. So that is fabric like this. So knit fabric, which is another way of saying stretch fabric. The reason for the different stitches is because if you've just put a normal straight stitch in a piece of stretch fabric, when the fabric's worn and moves as it's worn, the straight stitches will snap. You can't possibly hear those snapping, but that's some straight stitches in it, and they will snap and break as the fabric moves. So the stretch stitch, this one here, moves with the fabric and doesn't break. So in order to choose these ones, the stretch ones, instead of these, you turn the stitch length dial, which is this one, round to this orange. It's not very clear, but there's two orange S's there, SS, and that moves it over to this choice here. So we'll just be doing woven fabric, and we'll just be doing the normal stitches for now. That's what those are for. So this switch here is to put the machine in reverse. It does exactly the same, but the teeth under here that move the fabric through the machine, they will go back the other way. So they'll move the fabric backwards, so the stitch will go backwards. This here is to set stitch width. So I've just got it on 3, and so that means, for instance, if you were doing a zigzag stitch, it would make it go more zigzag like that, not narrow like that. The further up the numbers you go. And this one here that I've already referred to is the stitch length. So let's say you were doing a straight stitch, it would be so 1 would be a very, very short stitch, and round to 4 would be a long stitch. So that's what that is. So the only other things you need to know are, here is the thread tension. Now I've got that on 4, so it goes from 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you put that on, say 3, 2 or 3, that's average. So for most situations that will be right. In the book it shows you how to identify when the tension's wrong, and you can just adjust that. So if the tension's too high, you'll be pulling up thread from the bobbin when you don't want to, so you'll have loops on the top of the fabric, so you can just adjust that. But if you put it in the middle, you shouldn't normally need to worry about that. And then there's a dial around here which is for the foot pressure, so that effectively alters how hard the foot grips the fabric in the machine. So for instance, if you had very, very fine silk, you might want to increase that so that it grips it a bit tighter. But for general use, this kind of thickness of fabric, this kind of thing, you wouldn't need to adjust that very much. I've got that on 2 at the moment. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is to get some thread from your reel of thread onto your bobbin. So here's the bobbin as it would be when you bought it in the shop, and so you put it on here and you have the thread coming out the bottom of the reel. And then if we just look at the top of the machine here, put your thread on, just with the thread coming out the bottom of the reel. Put this on to keep it in place, and then we're going to go round here. There's two routes. So this route here is the one you use when you're going to load up the bobbin, and the bobbin is going to be going on here. We'll do that first. We're going to go round here and over here onto the bobbin. If I get my empty bobbin, then wrap it round a few times. And then put that on there so that the thread is coming out of the back of the bobbin. Take up the slack there, push it back towards there, and then we just press the pedal as though we're sewing, and it will wind it up. I'm not going to fill the whole thing up. It will stop automatically when you do. So snip between the two and then just push that back. Take it off. So now we need to thread the machine ready to sew. So just look at the top of the machine again. Just show you with this piece of red cord the route to take when you're actually threading the sewing machine. So you follow the number 1 down. So this is different to the route that you take when you're loading the bobbin. Come down the bottom, up the top, and round the hook lever like that, right to left, and then down, past 4, and towards the needle. So I'll just show you that with normal thread. So put thread behind there, follow the arrow where the 1 is, down there to the tensioner, round the bottom, top, through the arm there, the loop at the top, now towards 4, and then clip it there towards the needle. Here, so you notice that it's going past this controls the thread tension. So your thread from your reel is going past the tensioner, and that means it will be controlling how much thread is coming from the cotton reel. And then you go back up here like this. Now if I just show you on this old Singer machine, it's easier to see what's going on inside the machine. So here's an old-fashioned Singer machine, and on that machine, this is the tensioner. So you will put your thread in here, you'll go round here, you'll come up and back, and it's this mechanism. It's 2 discs, 2 metal discs. They will be controlling the tension of the thread coming from the reel, and you can adjust it like this. So in the modern machine, that little dial does that for you, and it's concealed inside, which in some ways is good, and in some ways makes it harder to see what's going on. So you can see that as I turn the wheel of this old machine, this arm goes up and down. So the thread would be going along here, down here, around the tensioner, and up it through here. And so it will be pulling more thread through from the reel here, but that will be controlled by this tension. So that's how you get, so as that arm goes up, that's how you get your bit of thread for the next stitch. Now, on the new machine, that's still going on inside there. It's just that it's hidden. You're coming up here and you can see the 3 there. We're going to 3 next. And if you turn the wheel, like I just did on the old machine, that arm comes up and you want to go round it in the same way that you would do on the new machine, and then come down here like this. And then you're down at 4 now. And then, so under here, there's a little clip. And you just want your thread to go behind that clip. So the thread's going along there, down there, up there, round that arm that you saw, down here and behind that clip. All you've got to do now is thread your needle. So whenever you are threading your needle, whether it's hand sewing or whether it is on a sewing machine, get some sharp scissors and cut your thread at an angle. You might not think that makes any difference when you're threading a needle, but I can assure you it does. So on this machine, you're going front to back through the eye of the needle. You thread it. So there, your top thread's ready. So you take that out, pretend that's not there. So this is the one that we just wound on. I'm not going to use that one. I'm going to use this one because it's white. So you can see that the orange thread comes from the top and the white thread comes from the bottom. So if we get our bobbin so that it's positioned like this, so you've got thread coming out the back as it were, and drop it into here. Okay, and then what you can see is, might be better if I turn the light off so it's not shining quite so much. So you get your thread, and what you can see is 2 little grooves. So one is there and one is there. So you want to go in that one and out of that one like that. I'll show you that again. Get your bobbin, thread's coming out the back, drop it in, go in that one or out that one, whichever way you look at it, and in that one, and then put your thread sort of northeast that way, like that. So now what you've got is, you've got your thread ready from the bottom, got your thread ready from your top. Now, underneath the needle there, where the needle's going to go down when you make your stitch, you want that white thread to be coming up through that hole. That's how the machine's going to be combining the stitch. So what you do is, you get, and I'm going to, oops, a daisy. I'm going to get one, I'm going to use my left hand and just hold those 2 threads in position. Don't press them so hard that they don't move, or that they can't move under your hand, but just press them there to keep them in position. And then the wheel on the side of the machine, sorry, I should have said that the machine really ought to be switched off at this point. So turn it manually. I've actually still got this plugged in, but unplug it. So turn it manually towards you, and what will happen is that the orange thread comes down with the mechanism and it grabs the white thread, the bottom thread, like that. Now this is mimicking what the machine will do when it's making a stitch, because remember I told you that the sewing machine makes a stitch by combining a top thread with a bottom thread. Well, when it's sewing, this is what it's doing. So you use that same mechanism to get your thread up So can you see that I'm just gently pulling the orange thread and it's pulling up the white thread? See? So now just let it slide through your fingers like that. And voila, you've now got that thread coming up through the bottom. So now all you need to do is put your cover back on like that, and then here's your foot. So your top thread needs to go through the toes of the foot, as it were, and then just have your threads trailing over the back, and you're now actually ready to sew. So if you switched it off, which you should have done first, then switch it back on. So now I'm just going to show you some sewing. So this is woven fabric, just a piece of ordinary cotton fabric. So when you put that in the machine like that, there's a thing called the foot, which is here. Oh, sorry, no, it's not, it's here. Like that. It's a lever there. So you can't sew with that up. That has to be down while you're sewing. And that will secure the fabric. And then these teeth under here, as the wheel goes round, as the motor goes round, those teeth move the fabric along like this and make it do the next stitch. So let's just do a straight stitch to start with. So that's A, and then let's just put it on very small, shall we? Like that. And let's sew. And then we'll move it to 4. Sorry, that should be up when you change the stitch. And we'll sew it now. So I'll take that out and I'll show you the 2 stitches. So when you want to take the work out at any point, you can just slide it out like that and cut the threads. So that's 1 and that's 4. Straight stitch. And now let's go and choose a zigzag stitch. So let's just do G here, okay? So I've got the stitch width on 3, by the way. So we go around to G and let's put it on 3. Foot down. Can you see that when you put the fabric in here like this, you're going to be sliding it between the 2 threads. When you put the foot down, you've got one above and one below the fabric, and the machine is going to combine them in the fabric. So now we're going to do, I hope, a zigzag stitch. What kind of zigzag stitch anyway? Oh, I've lost my thread there. Thread's come out my needle. Let's try it again, shall we? I've got a feeling that this machine has got a needle threader. I didn't know what this was, but I've got a feeling it's got one, and I've never had a machine with one, so I didn't realise, but it threads the needle for you, I think. I'm just going to check now. Which is a bit of a godsend, to be honest, because it is a fiddle sometimes. Right, try that again. If at any time you're trying to get your work out and you can't do what I've just done, you can't just pull it out, just manually turn the wheel. So that's a kind of zigzag stitch. G. A few straights and then a zigzag. Okay, so now if we switch to stretch fabric, so knit fabric, stretch fabric, whichever one you want to call it. So I'm going to put this in the machine. I'm going to a bit of a wider stitch. I need to go round to SS, stretch stitch that stands for, there. And I'm going to pick, let's say D. So there, that's what it's produced. And if I pull the fabric, those stitches are moving with the fabric. So for instance, if you wanted to put a little hem, say on a pair of leggings or something with that decorative stitch, it would secure it in place and it wouldn't break. Now I'm just going to find out what this contraption is here at the side. Yes, it's a needle threader and I've never used one, so can only suggest you either don't use it or look in the manual. It's part 11 and it shows you how to do it, no doubt, but they are fantastic for some people who really struggle to thread needles. So that's all I'm going to cover today. I hope that's going to enable you to get started with your machine, and I hope it's been useful. I would appreciate it if you could say so in the comments if it's been useful, or if there's something I haven't covered that you'd like me to cover. I'm actually not giving this machine back to my friend for a while because she lives all the way down in the south of England in Cornwall, and she's not in a hurry for it back. So, and I've got the book here. So if you have any queries of things that you don't understand, I'll probably be able to work it out and help you. I've put some useful links in the description, and also you might help you to watch my other how to use a sewing machine videos, which will be in the same playlist. One of the links I've put in the description is for a video by a man called Tim Hunkin. He's a British inventor, and when I was a child we used to get his comic books, like sort of textbooks, but they're like comic books, and he would always show how things work, like the secret life of the engine, or how a washing machine works and things like that, and lots of funny things as well. But he's actually made a video called The Secret Life of the Sewing Machine, and I've linked that in the description, and he actually goes into a lot more detail about how the inside of the sewing machine works and explains it in a really accessible way. You don't need to be an engineer or anything like that to understand it, but it's really interesting. And if you watch that, it might mean that if you do get into trouble with the machine and gets knotted up or something like that, you're more likely to be able to figure it out if you've got the book, and then if you've also watched the video. Either way, I hope you have found this useful, and I hope you enjoy using your sewing machine.